Hello, this is a guide for Save for Unity. This is relatively a new asset, and from my experience, it is the fastest asset available on the Unity Asset Store, and it's very versatile, and it's you could basically do everything with it, and it's very easy to use. In fact, it's so easy that I couldn't believe I was using the asset correctly because I just couldn't believe how simple it was. For example, if you look at the saving methods, there are one, two, three major saving methods, and I decided to initially use the save scene method, which saves your entire scene, and all you have to do is this. That's it, and you can save your entire scene. And to load the scene, all you would have to do is this right here. It's very easy. It's almost hard to believe that it could be this easy. It's so easy to use that you might think this can't possibly work, but I assure you it does. Okay, what other ways can you save using this asset? There's game objects and there's by object. Let's look at game object and then we could talk about the different types. So with game objects, you simply create your saving file first. This is an empty file, nothing saved on it. It's almost like making a list. And then you can save .gameObject and your reference of your game object. The difference between the save GameObject method and the save object method, with save GameObject, you don't only just save the game object, but you also save all the components on that game object and the children of that game objects with their components too. Now, for this video, I'm going to be using the object method. So I'm going to be saving my own classes that I have created for the tool that I have produced, and I'm going to show you the tool right now. So this is a tool I created for a game called EVE Online. And EVE Online has been in the market for over 20 years and it's a popular game, and most of you have probably heard of this game. Now, I created a tool that basically tells me whether this is a spaceship game. So before I leave my space station, I would want to know if the environment is safe, if there's any pirates or anything like that. So how the game works is I'm in a station right now and I am docked. I don't want to undock because I'm afraid these players in the system, in this local system, could be pirates and they might just kill me. So what does my tool do? I can copy their names, all these player names right here. I'm going to copy them and I'm going to go to my tool and paste the data here. But first, let's press play because this is in edit mode right now. And I'm going to paste the names of the local data. And what this tool would do is going to fetch all this information, as you can see on the logs, from their online API from EVE Online, and some from other kill boards are available for this game. And using this information, we will calculate and analyze whether these players are dangerous based on their history, based on their aggression history. And if they are safe, then we could safely undock the station, etc., etc. Now, as you could tell, this could take a long time because we are retrieving quite a lot of data from the API. And I might not want to do that every single time I want to see whether I should dock or undock, especially if most of the players in that system remain constant. Only one or two of them might change over a specific period of time, but most of them are probably just sitting in stations or doing, or they live in that system, so they don't ever leave. So out of all these local players, we have noticed that there isn't a single dangerous player who is a pirate. That's why our security status and the historical security status is 0. There are no pirates on here, so it's safe to undock. But I don't want it to take so long to fetch this information every single time. In fact, what would happen now if I was to paste the exact same data? Would it be faster or not? Let's try that. And to make sure you know that the cache has been cleared, I'm going to close the app by basically stopping plays, mimicking the app being closed, and I'm going to reopen it. And I'm going to paste the exact same data. Now you notice it processed it instantly. Now you might ask yourself, why did it process it so fast? And the answer is because we saved the data. Persistent save. It's not just caching the data. We actually saved it using this asset save for Unity. Now let's have a look at our code and see how we saved it. Okay, so I have two functions right here. One is save data persistent and one is load data persistent. And inside this, it's the logic that uses save for Unity asset. To use these functions, the save and the load, you have to declare using using sssoftware.save. So let's look at the save first. So to save, you simply create an empty save. It's very similar to the save scene and the same game object, but you just create a standard save file reference. Now this is an empty file. We just named it, but there's no data in it. I'd like to think of it like a list. And then I could save any information I want. So the first save, I'm going to save.object, and it's going to be something called Dangerous Alliance. Now let's find out what Dangerous Alliance is. So Dangerous Alliance is a list of a class I have created. If you want to see what the class is, it's a serializable class, and this is important. It has to be serializable, that holds data. And the data it's holding is just an int alliance ID, alliance name string, and a texture 2D. Let's go back. So I have a list, and I'm saving this list because once I generate this list, I don't want to keep regenerating it. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm adding to this list. But the second thing I'm adding to this list is actually of a different type. It's of that type. Oh, sorry, that's the load. So that's the first thing I added to the list. But the second thing I added to the list is of a different type. It's of dangerous corporation. And if I check what this is, it's very similar to the alliance one, the alliance data, but it's just corporation data. Okay, let's go back. What else am I saving to this list? I am saving something called solar system, search name and dates, and another one called player data. So actually here I'm loading it again, sorry about that, and here I'm saving it. So I am saving solar system, search name and date, and I'm saving object player data lifetime. So let's have a look at this one right here. It's a list of player data, which is a class I created. It's another serializable class. And this one has a ton of data. And this is why it takes so long to fetch this information from the online API. And it's probably the primary reason why I want to cache this data and save it on the local drive. If you just look at what this list right here is, it's another class. And inside this class, there's again another class with tons of information. And this is saved for every single player. Okay, so let's go back and have a look. How does this work? So let's look at the API real quickly. According to the API for the save methods object type, there are two parameters. There's the objects and the keep open. So by default, keep open is false. You generally want to keep open to be true only if you're planning to add more to that save. So if we go back to our code, we said true because we wanted to add more to this save. And then I said it was true here as well and here because I kept adding. The last one is false because I didn't want to add any more to that save, so I want to save and then close it and seal it, basically. There is another way to actually close it. I don't actually have to, I can say they're all true and then I could close it manually. And you could do that by, let's go back to the API. I could just say load.close or save.close. So for here you go, save.close. So you don't actually need to use those parameters, but I like to use their parameters because it's just so much cleaner. Okay. Now, one thing to note is that if you think about this as a list, when you add to this list, every time you add, the index increments. So the first one gets an index of 0, the second one gets an index of 1, and the index of 2, and the index of 3. And this is only because I am saving all this information on the same save. I technically could have created a new save file, and each one of this information could have been saved on a separate file. But I wanted to save them all on the same file because they're all just player data. Okay, how do we load it? I actually load everything on start when the application starts, so it loads persistent. But before we load it, I check if a load actually exists. So load.exists, and I add the name of my save file. Now notice my save file name is basically a static, or it's not a variable name, it's always the same name. What does that do? That means every time I save, I override my old save. If I don't want to override my old save, I basically have to change the name every single time. And then when I load, I would have to specify which load I would like to load, which one of those saves I would like to load. And I have to first check if it exists. And if it does exist, then I load it. So anyway, so we first check if the save exists. It's written load exists here, but you can also write save exists. It does the exact same thing. And we load the file. So load, we create the load file and we load it. And then we get the list of objects in the load file, load.objects. And then we load it back to our lists. So we update our list by getting the information from the save. So for the dangerous alliances, as you can remember, it was saved as index 0. So we load index 0, and we also tell it the type, so as list alliance data. And it do the same thing for all the other saves we have made. And this is very important. Unlike the save where the parameters are by default false, so I can actually remove this and nothing would change and it would work just fine. When you're loading, it doesn't load, it doesn't close automatically. So when you finish loading everything, you want to close it. Okay, so that's that. There is nothing else I want to cover, I do not think. Or is there? Let me think. Okay, one thing else to note is how do you actually delete your saves if you don't want them? So there are several ways to delete the save. If you are in editor, you can actually directly delete the save file. So you could go to tools and then go to save for Unity and manage data files. You can clear persistent data. This will delete everything. Alternatively, you can open persistent data folder and you can delete the saves that you're interested in deleting. You don't have to delete everything. Another way to do this is through API. So if you open the documentation and check out the API, there's a delete section right here. And all you have to do is delete save.delete file. Quite simple. And the file, this is basically your file name and .sav. Really easy to do. You might want to first, before you delete, you might want to first check if the file exists. So that the file exists first, then you would like to delete it. Okay, I think that's all there is to it. Thank you for watching.